What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new YouTube video, and today I've made a little noise map in hopes of kind of making some terrain generation in the future. And I'm really happy with the results, so I wanted to share it with you guys, especially since I haven't posted a programming video in a pretty long while. I am still programming, so this is your confirmation of that. So first of all, let's dive into the code here. My noise map is basically just a 2D array. It's basically like a plane, I guess you can think of. And all we're doing is we're looping through every single possible point. So here, we're doing that here. And normally with a noise map, it's easiest to just make every single point random. But what I wanted was some smooth generation with some gradients, right? So in order to do that, all I did was I checked the neighboring cells. When I'm drawing in a cell or choosing its value, I'm looking at the neighboring cells. So we can see here that's -1 to 1 in the x direction, -1 and in the y direction. And once we get the total shade from its neighboring cells, we divide from the number of neighboring cells we took from to get the average shade. And then onto that average, we're adding a little gradient with a little randomness, as you can see here. Now, the way this gradient parameter works is the larger you make the gradient, the more random the noise map appears. So with a really small value, you'll see a lot of smoothness. Most cells will be the same color. Whereas with a really large value, it'll look really random and incoherent, more like a noise map, truly random noise map. So I think the lower values or kind of values in between look a lot better because what I was trying to go for was some terrain generation or something that looks like a landscape, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now this function down here, all it does is draw the actual map, and in order to render it, I am using the StdDraw library. It's from Princeton, and it's very similar to, in Python, CMU graphics, or if you've worked with Java before, then it's similar to JavaFX and Abstract Window Toolkit. So it's a good tool to use and look into. So now that we've looked at the code, without further ado, I think it's time to draw the actual map. So first, I'll draw it here with a gradient of zero point 0.9. Now you remember I told you with high values, it'll look really random and really noisy. So we should expect to see something like that, not really a coherent map. So let's run that. And you can see it looks pretty random. There's not a lot of, there's like white spots here and then suddenly it goes straight up to the black. So some pretty random terrain, but it still looks pretty cool if I do say so myself. But now let's see what happens if I turn it down to 0.5. So remember, this is what 0.9 looks like. We should expect to see something smoother now. Oops, I forgot to save that. So that was the 0.9, and now the 0.5. And we can see how that actually looks a lot smoother. And honestly, I was really impressed when I saw this because it looks like one of those pictures of Jupiter to me. So I'm really happy with how the terrain generation worked out. Quite proud of that. But now let's take it even further. Let's turn it all the way down to 0.1 and see how smooth it becomes. Let's turn this down to 0.1 and run that. And we can see it's basically the exact same color now. Everything um, is very, very similar with some light streaks. Now, one thing you will notice is that all of my gradients are kind of horizontal. All of the streaks are horizontal and pointing upwards. Now, there is actually a reason for that, and it's a flaw in my code. I'll give you a second here. See if you can think of, what is wrong with my code that might be causing these lines to form horizontally. All right, hopefully you took a second to think about that because it's actually because of the order I'm drawing these lines in. I start from the corner here, you can see from 0, 0, and I work my way up from the left to the right. So every time I draw, I'm drawing these cells and then I'm going back here and drawing these cells. So I'm drawing in these horizontal lines. And because of that, that actually shows up in the overall pattern of the terrain generation. If I wanted to make it so that it was truly random without these horizontal streaks and instead maybe like peaks and valleys in circles, I would probably have to add some seeds and maybe draw outwards radially from those seeds. Or another option might be to choose random points to draw on each time until I filled in the entire map. And those solutions would probably offer something without these horizontal lines. But nonetheless, I'm really happy with how this turned out, so that's probably something to look into in the future. Now, one other thing I did make with this that was pretty cool, in my opinion, is I strung a bunch of the images together in a for loop, and I want to show you guys what that looks like. So all we're going to do here is we're going to start from a gradient of 0 and work our way all the way up to a gradient of 1. But we're going to take 1,000 steps. So we're going to increase by 0.001 each time. And you're going to be able to see the map slowly go from um, completely like uniform into something that's very, very disordered. And I'm really happy with how this looks. I think it looks quite good, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. So I'll just run this now, and we'll see how it looks when it goes from completely uniform to completely disordered. Wow, that was super cool. Honestly, to me, it looks like it's flashing images of Jupiter, especially in the middle of there with some values of maybe like zero point 0.2, zero point 0.3, zero point 0.4, zero point 0.5. It looks like I'm seeing images of another planet. And then sometimes it'll also look like it's animated to me, like the swirls are swirling about in a coherent way, even though everything is just completely random. And we see how towards the beginning, it looks more like this, completely uniform, completely the same. And you can see how point 1 looks something like this, point 2 looks something like this, point 3, point 4, point 5, point 6, point 7, point 8, and by the time we get to point 9, it's basically completely random. If you had chosen every point to be random, it probably would have looked something like this. If you do 0.99, it looks even more random and incoherent, as if every single point was truly random. So anyways, I think that's it for this video. This was a super cool project to work on, and I want to do more stuff with it in the future, maybe adding a 3D element to it to make like a voxel type game, or like a 3D graphics renderer, or maybe adding some more like terrain features like mountains, mountain ranges, or like valleys and things like that. So if you guys have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. But I think that's where I'm going to end the video for today. So thanks for tuning in.